I was a graphic designer. I applied for a job even though I had no idea what I was doing. I'm not going to deny the expense of the collective was not something that made me go, not sure if I can handle that. She said, you joined that even after we're talking about how expensive it was? I will pay you back the entire amount of the course if I help her win grants to cover it. Whole last year has been really budget tight, but it has been a definite win.
Has your boss ever walked in and handed you a book and said, hey, read this. I think we could add blank to your role. In this case, it was grant writing, and Natasha was all in, ditching donor relations for finding funding without having to talk to as many people. After her nonprofit said no to investing in the collective, she decided to pay for it out of her own pocket because she knew the importance in investing in her own skills. The training provided an up-level and a raise within her organization, and her nonprofit was so impressed by her commitment and her learnings that they actually offered to pay her back after the fact. Natasha is now managing the grant writing team at her nonprofit and growing in confidence every single day. Meet Natasha.
Thanks for having me.
When you joined the collective, what drew you to seek a grant writing community?
I was a graphic designer. I found myself drawn to this organization called Healing the Culture, and I applied for a job even though I had no idea what I was doing. Wanted to join her team as a donor relations person. She did the interview, took the chance on me, and I ended up doing really well in the job. 2 years ago, she came to me with a grant writing book and said, if you could learn how to do this and help me out, we could think about moving you up in position and putting you in grant writing, because I'm good with donor relations and I'm good with the events and stuff that I do, but I am terrible at asking people for money. I'm terrified of it. It's not something I've ever really wanted to get into. She said, if you don't like talking to so many people, you'll be asking for money in a written format rather than a verbal format, which is right up my alley.
You know, you don't hear very much about the good boss stories. How cool it is to be in an organization where you wanted to find your zone of genius and helped you get there.
I was really nervous at first because I've heard horror stories, how nonprofits are sometimes soul sucking, even though they don't intend to be, or take your personal life into consideration. My boss does all the things. She said, you have kids, they come first. You have family, they come first. Your job is not in jeopardy on any level. You make sure you take care of you and then worry about the organization.
Wow, that is really special. I'm so glad you landed in this amazing place. When you joined, what was your definition of success?
I wasn't sure if I would be able to take on the way we talk about things, just because it's a very specific verbiage that we use. I have since been complimented multiple times by my boss. She said of all of the people she's hired, I am one of the people that she trusts to actually talk about our mission without really goofed up on the verbiage. That's kind of been a really good thing. She wants me to move into the grant writer's position, not as the person doing the grant writing, but I am now overseeing a grant writer that we have hired on while doing all of my other job on top of it.
Nice. So kind of a director of development type role.
Kind of, but not really fully the director of the development so much as it is just the director of the grant writer.
What did the collective teach or provide that allowed you to step into this more fully?
Showed me a little bit more of the back end stuff, and actually the informational interviews, though they didn't really pan out for me on a go out and do the grant writing thing on your own, it did give me some ability to go out and talk to people and say, what do you guys do for grants on your end, and what are you looking for from my end to do that? I'm terrible at talking to people. You open up my world a lot. Talked to the executive director of a local United Way. He said, they would do really, really well and get really huge grants if you could get all 6 of these organizations to ask for one big grant that they could then use collectively to do something together.
It makes so much sense. I was just talking to a grant writer in Washington, and they run a food pantry. And one of the partnerships that they have made is with trucks that'll have produce that is too much. They've developed all these partnerships with those trucking companies to then bring it to the food pantry. And it's made them so much more eligible for grants.
It also saves a ton of food that could potentially go bad if nobody wants to use it. So
I love that the informational interviews had this other impact. Is part of your role to talk to the funders?
It will be. Just started this position of the grant writer has always been on the president. We got recommended to this grant writer who could help me on the side, ease me into that rather than just throwing all the grant writing on me and saying, here you go, take off.
And you get to work with someone, which is so much fun. Take me back to a really challenging moment in your journey.
I looked at a couple other options for grant writing courses, and your guys' is just the size of it everybody there to help me and back me up was just a really big draw for me. I was like, got to figure out how to squeeze this into my budget. I'm not going to deny the expense of the collective was not something that made me go, not sure if I can handle that. But then I ran across one of your guys' really old videos that talked about the unicorn grant. I was like, I'm going to apply for that. And with the amount that you guys gave me on that, I was able to squeeze it into my own personal budget. Whole last year has been really budget tight, but it has been a definite win as far as the information that I got from the course, all of the stuff that I learned. My confidence got a big boost with the informational interviews. A couple months into the grant writing course, I was watching one of your guys' videos on a lunch break, and my boss walks in. What are you listening to? That sounds like it's very informational. A grant writing course that I joined. She said, you joined that? Even after we're talking about how expensive it was? I was like, I figured out how to squeeze it into my budget, and I decided to take it. She said, you know what? Let's sit down and have a talk. Discussed how much it cost. She said, if we win X amount of grants, I will pay you back the entire amount of the course if I help her win grants to cover it.
What a commitment to say, I am committed to you, to this organization, and to your own growth. You have gained now a skill that is transferable to lots of different places, but you're using it specifically for this organization. That has to be one of the biggest gifts an employee can give a boss.
She's really excited about it.
Was there particular aspects of learning about grant writing that brought up different challenges?
The informational interviews. I was like, do I really have to talk to this many people every day? I did not do as many informational interviews as you guys said do. I did like maybe 5 tops, and then realized that I don't really want to be an outside grant writer. I want to in-house grant writer because I know what I'm doing here, and I want to be able to add the grant writing thing on top of my current role. The informational interviews really just slammed one door in my face and opened up another. I'm already doing everything I want right now.
What are you most proud of thus far in your journey?
That I was able to juggle that and my kids and my house and my life and my finances and everything that I needed to get to this point, hoping that from here on out it's going to be even better and my finances are going to increase because I've got a raise from my boss. I'm just waiting on those grant wins to come in so that I get that bonus back, and the possibility of later down the road moving up even higher in the ladder as far as the employment is concerned.
We'd love to know about the work that you're actually doing.
Healing the Culture is a pro-life education organization. If you were a truly happy person, and if you believed that your happiness came from not a place of self-gratification and money and power, but rather the ability to serve others, you're more likely to believe that everybody's worth that happiness and everybody deserves that happiness. If anybody's interested, they can find that on our website. It goes into explanations based on philosophy and logic of why all of these things are important and how you can't actually do those unless you know what true happiness is. We do courses, we teach these logic and ethics principles so that they can then apply it to how they talk to other people.
I hadn't heard of that before. Really unique way of approaching that topic.
It's a lot, and it's really hard to explain in such a short amount of time.
What would the grant money help you do? Would it help get that course into more organizations? Is that one of the main goals?
We do the in-person trainings. We have course education materials like books that we send into schools, the little pamphlets that we put up online. We've translated all of this really high-level stuff into philosophy for kids, foundational information so that they can learn later on down the road that everything they knew from when they were a kid still makes sense as an adult.
Lots of people come to us with the question of, can I find grant funding for faith-based organizations? Did you find several good opportunities that could be leads for Healing the Culture?
Because we're a Catholic organization, there is a funding guide that is specifically for Catholic funding.
Awesome.
An entire list of Catholic organizations that do just that. They will only give to other Catholic organizations. I have that advantage. Instrumental did have quite a few faith-based grants on there, but they weren't for me. There's every faith you could possibly think of popped up on there. Plenty of possibilities out there if I could really stretch what I'm talking about and how I'm explaining it, but that would take a lot more time for me to figure out how to get all of that in there.
Some rapid fire questions. One word to describe your dream lifestyle.
Relaxed.
Next vacation spot.
Alone in the mountains with family around.
Favorite podcast.
Exorcist Files.
What are you reading right now?
Strangers to the City.
Last TV show you binged.
Delicious in Dungeon with my children.
What is your superpower?
Organization.
I can see that. And it's such an asset to every organization. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why your boss and your team loves you.
Yeah, but you know what's really sad? If you look at my home, bastard.
We have to have an outlet. We cannot be perfect in every area.
Practice so many other things. I don't have time to do the dishes. Seriously.
My aunt used to say a dirty house is a sign of a well-lived life. And I love that. I am just so grateful that we could help you in that pathway for who knows what doors will open as a result of all of this.
That was a wonderful thing. And keep that mini corn grant going because people need it.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
Thanks.